Ambassador Daniel Reyes stepped off the sleek shuttle and onto the thick, humid soil of Velshara. The jungle moon was unlike any place he had ever visited. Towering trees with glowing leaves stretched high above, and vibrant flora painted the landscape in shades no human eye was accustomed to. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of alien flowers and something sharper: tension. Velshara was home to the Araxi, a proud warrior race known throughout the galaxy for their strict codes of honor and deadly skill in combat. Daniel was here to negotiate a peace treaty between the Terran Alliance and the Araxi clans, a treaty that could prevent decades of conflict and open the stars to cooperation. But peace was fragile, especially here. The shuttle landed near a sprawling market at the heart of the jungle city. Traders shouted, bartering exotic goods while clusters of warriors in ceremonial armor moved through the crowd. The chatter of negotiations mixed with the low hum of energy weapons and the clang of metal. Daniel's guide, a wiry Velsharan named Jala, led him through the maze of stalls. The clans gather for the Festival of Blades, she explained, a time of honor where disputes are settled through ritual combat. It's tradition, and it keeps the peace. Daniel nodded, though he was uneasy. The idea of ritual combat seemed archaic and dangerous, but diplomacy meant understanding customs, even when they seemed alien. Suddenly, the crowd parted, revealing a raised stone platform draped in clan banners. Two figures stood facing each other, a tall, lithe woman with striking amber eyes, her hair braided with beads and feathers, the daughter of the High Chieftain Lariah. Opposite her, a muscular man from a rival clan, his face hardened with determination. A hush fell. The festival had turned to spectacle. Lariah's hand rested lightly. On the hilt of her sword, a curved blade etched with glowing runes passed down through generations. The rival raised his own weapon, and the air crackled with anticipation. Daniel watched, intrigued and tense. The duel began with a flash of steel and sparks. The two warriors moved with breathtaking speed, their blades weaving deadly arcs through the humid air. Each strike was precise, a language of challenge and respect. But then, unexpectedly, the rival's blade found its mark. Lariah's sword was knocked from her hand, skittering across the stone platform. Time seemed to slow. The crowd gasped. Lariah stood frozen, vulnerable. No one moved to intervene. The rules were clear. A daughter's honor had to be defended by her clan or accepted suitor. Daniel's heart pounded. He knew what was about to happen, and knew it wasn't the place of a human ambassador to interfere. But instinct won. Daniel stepped forward without thinking, picking up the fallen sword. The crowd's reaction was immediate and sharp. Whispers spread like wildfire. To the Araxi, the act was unthinkable. He raised the blade, standing between Lariah and her challenger. The rival snarled, confused. "You dare?" Daniel's voice was steady. "I will not let her be harmed." Steel clashed again. What Daniel lacked in Araxi martial tradition, he made up for with human adaptability and determination. The fight was uneven, but Daniel's resolve was unshakable. With a final, deft move, he disarmed the challenger. Silence engulfed the crowd. The elders stepped forward, faces grave. An ancient law was invoked. By taking up her clan's sword to defend her, Daniel had accepted a sacred bond. He had become her husband. Daniel's mind reeled. He had only wanted to protect her. Now his fate was sealed in ways he couldn't yet understand. Lariah's amber eyes met his, a mixture of surprise and something deeper flickering within. The jungle around them seemed to hold its breath. The murmurs of the crowd swirled around Daniel like a rising storm, thick with disbelief and whispered questions. No one spoke the words aloud yet, but the weight of tradition pressed down on the air, heavy and inescapable. Lariah's amber eyes remained locked on Daniel's. There was a flicker of something unreadable. Curiosity? Respect? Challenge? That made his heart beat faster. The crowd parted slowly as the clan elders advanced, their faces carved with solemnity. "You have taken up the blade of House Veshan," intoned Elder Cora, her voice deep and steady, echoing through the silent gathering. By our ancient law, this is not a mere act of defense, it is a pledge, a bond that ties the bearer of the sword to its clan and to its daughter. Daniel swallowed, feeling the chill of realization settle in his bones. He had come as an ambassador, a negotiator. He had not come to wed a warrior princess or join an ancient clan. Yet here he stood, blade in hand, bound by a tradition he barely understood. The murmurs grew louder, some hostile, others awed. The Araxai valued strength and honor above all, and here was this strange human who had defended their chieftain's daughter with nothing but courage and instinct. Lyria stepped forward, her stance proud and commanding. The ambassador has defended me in combat. By tradition, this makes him husband to House Veshan. Her words sent a ripple through the crowd. Daniel caught the steely glint in her eyes, and beneath it, something softer. A spark of interest or perhaps amusement at his predicament. The high chieftain, a towering figure cloaked in ceremonial armor adorned with the feathers of fallen foes, approached slowly. His voice was a low rumble. Ambassador Reyes, do you understand what you have done? Daniel nodded cautiously. I acted to protect her. I did not intend, whatever this means. This means, the chieftain said, that you have accepted a bond sacred to my people. It is not simply a marriage, it is a joining of lives, honor, and duty. To reject it now would bring dishonor upon House Veshan and imperil the peace between our peoples. Daniel's mind raced. Back on Earth, marriage was a personal choice, an emotional union, not a political or cultural binding. Here, it was, something far greater, something that could affect entire clans and alliances. Is there no way to undo this? Daniel asked quietly. Elder Cora shook her head. The bond is sealed the moment you raise the blade in her defense. To break it would be to dishonor not only House Veshan but all of Araxai. The crowd's eyes bore into him, the weight of centuries of tradition pressing down like the jungle canopy above. Lyria's gaze softened, just a fraction. You may not understand our ways, Ambassador, but if you are to stand with me, you must prove yourself worthy of this bond. Daniel met her challenge head-on. Then tell me what I must do. The chieftain gestured toward a towering stone gate carved with glowing runes. You will undertake the rite of flame. It is a test of strength, courage, and spirit. If you succeed, you will be accepted not just by House Veshan, but by all clans of Velshara. Daniel glanced at the gate, then back at Lyria. The jungle around them pulsed with life, the air thick with expectation. He realized then that his mission had changed entirely. No longer was he simply a negotiator. He had become a participant in a story older than humanity itself, a story of honor, loyalty, and unexpected bonds. And beneath the weight of this new reality, one thought burned bright in his mind. How could he survive a world where marriage was won by the sword, and keep the fragile peace between two very different species? Lyria stepped closer, her voice low but firm. Come. The rite begins at dawn. Daniel nodded. There was no turning back. Now, dawn broke over the jungle moon of Velshara, casting golden light through the thick canopy. The air was dense with humidity and the scent of wild blossoms, but beneath the serene beauty lurked an undercurrent of tension. Daniel Reyes stood at the edge of the ritual grounds, clutching the Araxai sword, a symbol heavier than its weight in steel. The night's quiet had given him no relief. His mind replayed the elder's words, the unyielding expectations, and the impossible path before him. He was no warrior, no noble heir. He was a diplomat, trained in negotiation rooms, not combat arenas. Yet here tradition demanded he prove himself worthy of a bond sealed by a single act of defense. Lyria appeared beside him, her movements lithe and confident, the quiet grace of a predator who knew the jungle as well as the air she breathed. You look ready, she said, a faint smile playing on her lips. Daniel tried to return it, but only managed a tight nod. I'm ready to learn. But I don't know if I'm ready to survive. She studied him for a moment, then nodded. The rite of flame is not just a test of strength, it is a journey. To succeed, you must understand my people, not just their fighting skills, but their spirit. Lyraya led him toward a narrow path carved through the dense jungle, ancient runes glowing faintly along its edges. The first trial is the hunt. You must find the flamevine flower, a rare plant that blooms only once a year, deep in the heart of this jungle. Without it, you cannot continue. Daniel swallowed hard. The jungle was alive with dangers, predators, poisonous plants, and the unknown. Yet he had no choice. The forest swallowed them as they moved deeper beneath the towering trees. Strange sounds echoed, calls of unseen creatures, the rustle of leaves, and the steady drip of moisture from the canopy. Daniel's senses sharpened. Every shadow felt like a threat, every movement a challenge. Hours passed. Sweat dripped down his forehead and his lungs burned with effort. The jungle was unforgiving, and the flamevine flower was elusive. Just as despair crept in, a soft glow caught his eye, a cluster of delicate petals shimmering with an otherworldly light. Daniel reached out carefully and plucked the flower, its warmth spreading through his fingers. Relief washed over him, but the trial had only begun. Returning to the village, Lyraya introduced Daniel to the second test, the mind link. The RXI practiced an ancient form of communication where two minds briefly merged, sharing thoughts, memories, and emotions. For a human with no psychic training, it was overwhelming. As the mind link began, Daniel felt his thoughts blur and fragment, swallowed by waves of unfamiliar memories and emotions, visions of battles fought long ago, clan celebrations, moments of triumph and loss. Lyraya's mind reached out steady and calm, guiding him through the storm. When the link broke, Daniel gasped for breath, his mind reeling but clearer. I understand more now. Your people carry generations of honor and pain. Lyraya nodded solemnly. And you carry their future. The final trial awaited, a combat test against one of the clan's finest warriors. Daniel's body trembled at the thought, but he no longer saw it as a mere fight. It was the culmination of a journey into a culture he barely understood, into a bond he never expected to take on. That evening, as the twin moons rose over the jungle, Daniel prepared himself. The weight of the sword was no longer a burden. It was a promise. To Lyraya, to the clans, and to himself, the rite of flame had begun. The morning air was thick with anticipation as Daniel stood in the clearing, facing Kalen, a seasoned warrior from House Veshan. Clad in dark armor etched with clan symbols, Kalen's eyes gleamed with a mixture of respect and challenge. This final trial would test everything Daniel had learned, his strength, courage, and spirit. Lyraya stood nearby, her gaze steady and unreadable. She had watched Daniel's progress with a careful eye, impressed by his determination but wary of the outcome. To the clans, the rite of flame was more than a test. It was a declaration of loyalty and worthiness. The elders signaled the start. Steel met steel in a swift, ringing clash. Daniel moved cautiously at first, adapting to Kalen's fluid style, powerful strikes mixed with quick, precise parries. Unlike human combat, which often relied on brute force or technology, RXI fighting was a dance of instinct, honor, and lethal grace. The fight pushed Daniel to his limits. He blocked a heavy blow that sent vibrations through his arm, then countered with a strike that grazed Kalen's shoulder. Sweat stung his eyes, breath came in ragged bursts, but his resolve only hardened. Minutes passed like seconds. Around them, the jungle seemed to hold its breath, the crowd watching in tense silence. Finally, Kalen stepped back and lowered his blade. You fight with heart, human. You honor the blade and the bond. Daniel nodded, chest heaving. He had passed the trial, but more importantly, he had earned respect. That evening, Lyraya invited him to a private ceremony, one few outsiders ever witnessed. Under the glow of bioluminescent plants, the elders performed the binding rite. As Daniel knelt before them, Lyria presented the clan's ceremonial cloak, embroidered with symbols of unity and strength. "The sword is not just a weapon," she said softly. "It is the soul of our people. By taking it up, you have embraced that soul." Daniel felt the weight of the cloak settle around his shoulders, heavier than any armor he had worn. It was a symbol of acceptance and a reminder of the responsibilities he now carried. But the peace they had fought to secure was fragile. Days later, whispers of dissent reached Daniel's ears. Some clans viewed the Union as a dangerous aberration, an insult to tradition and a threat to their autonomy. They feared the influence of humanity would dilute the strength of the Araxi bloodline. Lyria confided her concerns during a walk along the jungle's edge. "Not all will accept this," she said, voice tinged with sadness. "There are those who would see us torn apart." Daniel clenched his fists. He had come to Velshara to broker peace between two species, but now he faced a threat from within, a war born of fear and pride. "We have to stop it," he said, "together." She smiled, a flash of warmth amid the uncertainty. "You may have taken up the sword by accident, Daniel Reyes, but now you wield it with purpose. You are no longer just an ambassador. You are part of this clan." In that moment, Daniel understood the truth of her words. The bond was no longer a burden. It was a choice, a commitment forged not by chance, but by courage and trust. The jungle around them whispered ancient secrets, and Daniel felt a new strength rising within him. The trials were only the beginning. The calm that had settled over Velshara was a fragile illusion. Beneath the surface, shadows stirred, whispers of dissent and anger that threatened to unravel the fragile peace Daniel and Lyria had fought so hard to build. It began with subtle signs, guarded glances exchanged in marketplace corners, cryptic messages scrawled in the dirt, and rumors carried on the wind. Some clans refused to accept Daniel as husband to Lyria, seeing him as an outsider who had no right to wield their sacred sword or share their honor. One evening, as the twin moons bathed the jungle in silver light, Daniel met with Jala, his Velsharan guide and trusted confidant. "There is unrest," she said quietly. "Some say your presence is a threat to the clan's traditions. Others speak of rebellion." Daniel's brow furrowed. "Rebellion? Against the peace treaty?" Jala nodded gravely. "Not just the treaty. Against you, and against Lyria's leadership." The news chilled him. His role had become far more complicated than he ever imagined. Not only was he bound by Araxi law, but he was also a symbol, one that some clans wished to destroy. Determined to understand the threat, Daniel and Lyria slipped through shadowed paths to a hidden meeting. Placed deep within the jungle, there they overheard voices, fierce and resolute, plotting to shatter the alliance. "We cannot allow a human to claim the sword," snarled a dark-clad figure. "It dishonors us all. We will ignite the clans in war before we accept this betrayal." Lyria's eyes flashed with anger. "If they seek war, they will find me ready." Daniel placed a steady hand on her arm. "We need more than strength. We need a plan and allies." Back in the heart of the city, they convened with trusted clan leaders and diplomats. The room was tense, filled with whispered doubts and thinly veiled hostility toward Daniel. One elder spoke sharply. "This human has disrupted centuries of tradition. How can we trust him to hold our honor?" Daniel met the elder's gaze calmly. "I did not seek this bond, but I stand by it. I have faced the Rite of Flame, and I have fought for this clan's honor. I am not here to weaken your people, but to strengthen them, for both our futures." Lyria's voice cut through the tension. "The future depends on unity, not division. Those who reject peace risk everything we have built." Despite their words, the seeds of rebellion had taken root. In the coming days, Daniel and Lyria found themselves navigating a maze of intrigue, spies in the marketplaces, threats whispered in the night, and sudden skirmishes between rival clans. But there was more at stake than just politics. Daniel sensed a deeper current, an ancient grudge woven into the very fabric of Velshara's history. A shadow from Laraya's bloodline, a secret kept hidden, now threatened to erupt. One night, alone with Laraya beneath the towering jungle trees, Daniel asked, "What aren't you telling me?" Her voice was low, heavy with pain. "My family has enemies, old rivals who would use any excuse to break us apart. The rebellion is not just about me. It is about the past we cannot escape." Daniel reached out, taking her hand. "Then we face it together, no matter what comes." Laraya's eyes softened, a rare vulnerability breaking through her warrior's facade. "Together," she agreed. As the first sparks of rebellion ignited, Daniel realized that defending Laraya was only the beginning. Now, he had to fight to protect everything their bond represented: honor, peace, and a future forged in fire. The rebellion simmered like a slow-burning ember, threatening to ignite the entire jungle moon in flames. Daniel and Laraya worked tirelessly to hold the clans together, but the deeper they delved into the unrest, the more they realized the rebellion was not just about tradition or fear, it was being manipulated. One evening, in the dim light of the council chamber, Daniel spread a map of Velshara across the table. "Look here," he said, pointing to a cluster of smaller clans near the outer borders. "These are the hotspots for recent attacks and unrest." Laraya studied the map, her fingers tracing the glowing lines. "These clans have little to gain from war. Something else is driving them." Daniel nodded. "Agreed. Someone is stirring the pot. Someone with a hidden agenda." Jala stepped forward, her voice steady. "There are rumors of an outside faction, mercenaries and smugglers who profit from chaos. They want to see Velshara divided so they can control the trade routes and resources." Laraya's eyes darkened. "Then we must root them out before they destroy everything." They set out to investigate, traveling deep into the jungle to confront the shadowy forces behind the unrest. The air grew heavier as they approached a hidden camp, an encampment of rogue fighters armed and ruthless, with no loyalty to any clan. Daniel's heart pounded as they observed the camp from the undergrowth. The mercenaries were led by a cunning strategist named Ralvek, a man known for exploiting conflicts for profit and power. Laraya whispered, "Ralvek has no honor. He will use any weapon to win." The next night, under cover of darkness, Daniel and Laraya launched a daring raid on the camp. Their goal was not just to defeat Ralvek's forces, but to capture evidence of his involvement and bring the truth to the clans. The fight was fierce. Daniel, though less experienced, moved with surprising agility and resolve, his bond with Laraya strengthening with each clash. Together, they disarmed enemies, disrupted supply lines, and seized encrypted communications, revealing Ralvek's plans. Captured, Ralvek sneered. "You think this bond of yours can save you? The clans will tear themselves apart. Power belongs to those who take it." Laraya's voice was cold. "Power earned through treachery is worthless." With evidence in hand, Daniel and Laraya returned to the council, exposing Ralvek's scheme. The clans, shocked by the revelation, turned their anger from one another to the true enemy. The rebellion's momentum faltered as unity began to return. Old rivalries faded beneath the shared threat, and the clans rallied around their new alliance. Yet the victory was bittersweet. In the aftermath, Daniel confronted Laraya privately. "You said there was a secret in your bloodline. Is it connected to this?" She hesitated, eyes distant. "There is more than just enemies outside. My family's past holds shadows we cannot ignore. The sword I carry is not only a symbol of honor, it is a key to something ancient, something dangerous." Daniel reached out, steadying her. "Then we face it together, whatever lies ahead." The jungle night wrapped around them, alive with whispers of the past and promise of the future. Daniel knew their battle was far from over, but for the first time he felt not just a guest in this world, but a part of it. The days following the exposure of Ralvek's plot brought a fragile peace to Velshara. The clans, though wary, united under the banner of shared survival. Yet beneath the surface, A deeper mystery gnawed at Daniel's mind. The secret Lyraya had hinted at, buried deep within her family's history. One evening, as the jungle's twilight hues faded to night, Lyraya led Daniel to an ancient stone chamber hidden beneath the roots of a colossal tree. The air inside was cool and heavy with the scent of moss and ancient wood. "This is the Vault of Elders," Lyraya explained, her voice reverent. "Only those of House Veshin may enter. It holds the history of my clan, and the truth about the sword." Daniel's eyes adjusted to the dim light as Lyraya approached a carved pedestal. Resting atop it was a slender, ornate dagger unlike the heavy blade Daniel wielded, a relic from centuries past. Lyraya touched the dagger gently. "The sword you carry was forged from the same ancient metal as this dagger. Our bloodline is tied to it by more than honor. It carries a legacy of power and responsibility." She began to tell a story, one passed down through generations. Long ago, the Araxai clans were united by a prophecy, a time when a bond between two worlds would bring great change. The sword, forged from a rare star metal, was meant to be wielded by one who bridged those worlds, bringing peace or destruction. Daniel listened intently, the weight of the prophecy settling on his shoulders. His arrival on Velshara was no accident. He was the one foretold, a human chosen by fate to stand alongside Lyraya and shape the future. But with that power, Lyraya warned, comes danger. There are those who seek to claim the sword's secret for themselves. Daniel's mind raced. The rebellion, the mercenaries, even the ancient rivalries, all seemed pieces of a larger puzzle. As they spoke, a sudden tremor shook the chamber. The ground beneath them quaked, ancient runes flaring with eerie light. Dust fell from the ceiling as a hidden passage revealed itself, a narrow tunnel descending deeper into the heart of the tree. Lyraya's eyes widened. The vault is opening. It's time to face what lies beneath. With no hesitation, Daniel followed her down the dark passage, the walls closing around them like the pages of a living book. The air grew cooler, thick with the scent of earth and forgotten memories. At the passage's end, they found a cavern glowing with faint blue light. In its center stood an altar carved from the same star metal as the sword and dagger, pulsing with energy. Lyraya stepped forward, placing her hand on the altar. "This is the heart of our legacy. It holds the power to unite or to destroy." Daniel joined her, feeling the pulse beneath his fingers. Images flooded his mind, visions of past wielders of the sword, battles fought and won, sacrifices made. A voice echoed softly in his thoughts, a warning and a call. Only with true unity can the power be wielded safely. As they stood side by side, Daniel realized the true test was not the right of flame, nor the battles fought outside, but the challenge of trust and partnership. The fate of two worlds rested on their shoulders. The cavern pulsed with quiet power as Daniel and Lyraya stood before the ancient altar. The weight of their journey, the trials, the rebellion, the secrets, pressed upon them like the jungle canopy outside. But here, in this sacred place, something unspoken shifted between them. Daniel glanced at Lyraya. Her amber eyes reflected, the blue glow steady and fierce. "We've come a long way," he said softly. "But this feels like the real beginning." She nodded. "Our bond is more than tradition or law. It's the foundation for what's to come. We must face it together." The altar hummed beneath their hands, sending waves of warmth through their veins. Daniel closed his eyes, reaching deep into himself to meet the pulse of Velshara, of the sword, and of the ancient power bound within. Visions came, of two worlds intertwined by fate, torn apart by fear, yet yearning for peace. Of battles fought not just with weapons, but with trust and understanding. Of a future shaped by courage and unity. When he opened his eyes, Lyraya's hand found his. Their fingers intertwined, the bond between them no longer a matter of law, but of choice. Outside, the clans gathered in the village square, awaiting the decision that would define their future. The rebellion had been quelled, but uncertainty lingered like the last embers of a dying fire. Daniel stepped forward, the ceremonial cloak draped over his shoulders, sword sheathed but ever present at his side. "My people and I came to Velshara, seeking peace," he began, voice clear and steady. "I did not expect to find a bond like this, one forged not just by sword, but by shared trials and trust." Lyria stepped beside him, her presence a beacon of strength. "Together, we have faced threats from within and without. We have uncovered secrets that could have divided us, but we chose unity." She raised her sword, the blade catching the sunlight as it glimmered with ancient power. "This sword is not just a symbol of my clan, but of the future we build. One, where different worlds stand as one." A hush fell over the crowd, the weight of her words settling like a promise. Daniel took a deep breath. "I accept this bond fully. Not because tradition demands it, but because I believe in what we can create, together." The elders stepped forward, nodding in solemn approval. The clans began to murmur, the tension easing into cautious hope. Jala smiled beside Daniel, her eyes shining with pride. "You have earned more than honor, Daniel Reyes. You have earned a place among us." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with vibrant hues, Daniel and Lyria stood united. The sword between them was no longer a burden, but a beacon, a testament to courage, respect, and the power of unexpected bonds. In that moment, the jungle whispered its approval, ancient and enduring, and the story of the human who took up a clan's sword and became its husband was just beginning.